deconverted man here. I've got Satan's little helper here who isn't a dog. So, what's up, Satan's helper?
I'm doing good. How about
Alright.
you, sir?
Oh, So, you're an atheist, yeah?
Yes.
Okay. But, now, being an atheist, that means you just don't believe in God. So, do you believe in Satan? Because you're Satan's little helper, so... Yeah.
No, but I'm also a Satanist. I just came out as a Satanist. But I'm talking about the with loose and greaves, that type of Satanism, not the DeVay Satanism. The more I don't believe in the devil, but I use it as a method of showing people I can be part of a religious organization, still have the community and all of that, and still have the protections of a religion, and I'm able to fight off persecutions such as what they're doing in Florida and also in Texas with the abortion rules and stuff like that. So if my girlfriend came out as a Satanist or whatever, we can get that religious exemption from it.
Yeah. Aaron, I never know if I get his name right because I say things wrong. Aaron Raw did a whole talk with Satanists lately, I believe. I don't know if you saw that or not, but yeah, huh? No, yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's like they have basically I hear about them whenever like they, some cities like, oh, let's put up the 10 Commandments, and it's like, okay, let's do this, and they come out and it's basically a counter to it because you either have it's free for all or it's free for none, and so you got to separate state and church because it's like you can't hope to represent every belief that's out there because it's just madness. And if you have a public square, well, then everyone gets to be represented. So it's better just to say, nope, we're not going to do any of that, because it's just not enough room, right? Everybody has up their statue, and then you have a war of who's bigger, or, whatever. It's
right. And another thing is, I'm not here to go out and about and pick at Christians or make fun of them or just put the devil out there just because I don't like Christians. That's not the purpose of it. I'm not going to go and probably that far and make a statue or go kiss on somebody's grave. I'm not going to do all that. But I still can hold to the tenets and I can still get that exemption as needed and still support them on their endeavors, fighting persecution and stuff like that.
I believe that Pastafarian got recognized as well. I could be wrong, but I do remember seeing somebody having a pasta strainer on their head for their driver's license, saying, that they were Pastafarian so they can do it. And it's like, okay, it's like, so kind of, I think that next time I renew my license, I'm bringing my lobster with me and putting it on my head and saying I'm a lobsterist and trying to get it done. See if I can get it done.
That would be so funny. At the DMV, they're just looking, why does this guy got a lobster?
Hey man, back off. Satan's little helper is my friend. Well, I don't know. Can't be more than one person's friend. You have to pick between me and Gur, apparently. I don't know.
Oh man.
Who to pick?
Hey, deconverted man, you can choose both of us. I don't care if Gur wants to be that way. Let him be that way.
I was just gonna have you guys fight to the death, and whoever survives,
Keep in mind, I'm in hell, so I'm already in my
You're already
territory.
dead, so you have an advantage.
Yeah, I kill Gurr. He's just gonna be back where I'm at.
Yeah, it's like, oh, wait a minute. So now you had a belief at some point in God, or did you, or what's up with that? Tell me
Yeah,
about that.
I had a belief in God. I grew up as a Christian. I was taught to pray every night, and I did so. I was a devout Christian to the point where I was scared to even touch myself. I was scared to have nasty thoughts. Every time I did, I had to repent, and so on and so on. And then I would even cuss, no matter how much the friends around me would cuss. I was in my I was 18 years old, never cussed a day in my life. That's how strictly the religion had me, and it was terrifying. I was always like, oh my goodness, I need to do whatever I need to please God. I want to be the best Christian possible. I would give my life and commit suicide for Jesus if I needed to. Like I was reenacting scenes of when persecution would happen, and if somebody was saying, I'm going to kill all the Christians, I was hoping for that. I was literally like, yes, I want the day of reckoning to come. Uh, I want to show how much I love my God, and that's how it was. I was like, I want to show you, God, how much I love you. Give me a test. I will show you. And
Yeah,
then,
it reminds me of I used to say, like, give me a flaming sword and send me into battle, because Revelation had flaming swords, and I thought, oh, that's so cool. I want a flaming sword, and I want to go into battle for God.
flaming sword, a tiger,
Yeah,
just the
yeah,
coolest badass shit.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, when belief does empower you in that way of you're fearless. You have this drive that you're passionate about this idea. And of course there's pros and there's cons to it, but something happened at some point. And what happened, or was there many things that happened that led you down the road of deconversion?
Well, I was so avowed. I was like, there's nothing that can convince me otherwise. So it was going into my class, right? Um, it was a French class, and they were talking about God for some weird reason. And it brought up I had one trans student, and I had like three other kids in the class. It was a small class because it was French, and public school French class ain't gonna be that big. Uh, so we were talking about it, and I was the only Christian, shockingly enough. Even the teacher was somewhat of an atheist, and I'm just like, how are y'all all don't believe in God? I was trying to think of a rational argument, so I would go to Christian YouTube channels, and I would just go home and just pray, like devoutly. It was like, okay, since they said, how can a God be all powerful, all knowing, and all loving? I didn't have nothing for that, so I was looking everywhere to find something that can put a nail in that. And it was very hard for me to do so. And I try to go to atheist channels because I was just like, okay, I want to see what the atheist got to say. So I was discovering the atheist experience. The first atheist channel I actually went to was actually the Friendly Atheist.
Yeah, so you're in the dark zone already, man. You're playing with fire there. You're looking at the other side of the arguments. That that that
Yeah.
that's not a good idea. Uh-oh. So what
Uh
happened?
oh.
Yeah. So you start asking questions, because for the first time your bubble kind of got popped. You're like, wait a minute, not everybody believes the same thing I do. That's weird. And then you dive into this world where even more people don't believe in what you believe, and so now you have lots of questions. And what do you do with that?
Yeah, so I just went even more into it. The more questions I got, the more I wanted to study and research, because I was just like, there's no way that I'm wrong. And then I got to the point where, you know what? God is a fucking asshole. It got to the point where I would consider a immoral God. Literally, it got me to the point where I was like, I'm still going to worship God even if he was a fucking asshole.
Yeah, because it's God, right? I mean, it doesn't matter. It has to be worshipped. That's part of what it is, right? Is this, kowtow to ultimate authority? All knees shall bow, and all that. So I mean, that makes sense. So you came to the point where it's like, okay, yeah, sure, it's a jerk, but I'm still gonna believe in it. I'm not gonna stop believing in it. But then what? Something snap, or something click, or what
It was
was?
it was a slow process. It was just being
Yeah.
able to realize, like, the more I went into it, the more it didn't make sense. One thing that really did not make sense is a God sets premises, right? He's supposed to be all powerful, all knowing, and all good. He sets these standards, but everybody wants to discredit him. When you would try to argue for, okay, why did God send you to hell? And my response would always be like, well, free will. Of course, you need free will to survive, and that's what you need. You need free will so you can go about your life however the way that you want to. So God gave you that as a gift. But I realize God is still powerful. He can overturn free will at any time or any place. He's all powerful. So why am I putting a barrier in front of God? And then I go to, how about if that just makes me a mindless slave? Well, still, he is all powerful. There is not one point where you're going to be able to justify hell and not limit that God's power.
I got a question for you. Hold on a moment. I want to hear what the question was. Yeah, hold on a second. What are your thoughts on Crowley
and Anton Sandor LaVey
and Anton Zandor LaVey? Okay. Do you have any idea who those people are?
I know Antoine DeVay. He's a Satanist, but I don't derive from him. I just think there's some things that he was uh, doing all right, but he was more into, I'm doing this as a cult. I want this to actually strike fear into people. And that's not how it is now. That's not what I want to do. That's why I'm more with the Church of Satan, uh,
Is there
TS.
like these are like people that founded different, I guess, denominations of Satanism, then, or?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I'm not really know too much about them, so I don't want to say anything that's true or not true
Yeah,
about them.
your opinion, whatever it might be. Maybe you don't have one because you don't really know anything about them. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I was like, who? I don't know who these people are. I have no idea.
I want to get more into it because it is part of some history about how the Satanic Temple came to be, and I found that very interesting.
Okay, so that's Anton apparently wrote the Satanic Bible. Okay. All right. All right. Well, that was the random question I had from my friend here. Okay, back to the thing. Okay, so we're back. Rewind time here. We're not in a Satanist yet, but we're headed down that road on deconversion. That you still believe in God, but you can't really answer these questions of, how could it, be all this powerful and loving and all this, yet do these, X, Y, and Z, and you couldn't really
Yeah.
resolve that.
Yeah, but I still believed in the God because I was just like, okay, even if he was evil, I mean, that can justify that. I mean, he could be all powerful and still
Right.
send people to hell.
Yeah. But then
There
it's
wouldn't be
not.
nothing you could do.
Then there's a problem because the God is described as being all good. So then there's a contradiction. It's like, well, it's not all good, or the word good doesn't mean what I think the word good means. So you kind of have this choice of, do I redefine what good is, or does the good that I think exists trump, that version of God that I'm reading about and that I'm thinking about, right?
And that's totally true. I was a dumb, as a Christian, I'm not going to say I was dumb. I was just going to say I was still devout at the time. So, me not realizing that at the time didn't even cross my brain. So, I was just thinking, okay, this God is all powerful. He can do whatever he wants. I just have to give up one of those omni traits. And I felt fine doing that.
Right.
And
So
then,
now you've kind of created your own version of God, which is something that people do all the time. That's why there's so many denominations, right? So
right. And I kind of rationalized that to being like, okay, everybody else has their interpretation of a God or whatever. I didn't really have a denomination that I follow. So I was like, maybe I'll find an answer later on. I'm still going to believe in God because, hey, maybe I don't know. And maybe there's some answers out there that can explain it. The thing that really got me was when somebody said they did not give a shit about God, uh, they wouldn't worship him, even if he was good or did all those things in the Bible.
Yeah, because I mean, even if you knew something existed, uh, that wouldn't necessarily mean you would worship it. Like, the thing is, if it was truly worthy of worship, it wouldn't want worship. I don't think that it would ask for it or want it. I think it would say, don't do that. Like, I think that just from my perspective, I don't, I'm not saying that it would or wouldn't, who knows, but I would just think that, if it really was worthy of whatever worship is, which is kind of like a whole question of what do we mean when we say worship, but if it was worthy of it, then it wouldn't demand it or ask for it or maybe even desire it, or because if it's so awesome, why would it want that, and of course I've heard, well, it's not about it's for you, you're worshiping because it makes you feel good or stuff like that. I'm like, I don't know about that. Like, sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah, and that brings me to another tangent. What is God? And this is a side tangent. After deconverting and becoming a Satanist, I realized that it's funny how Christians uh, will go and spend money to their churches, right? I always thought that was the weirdest fucking shit. Because if I'm an all powerful being, why would I want you to waste some type of money that I can probably get an infinite amount in when you could be using that same amount of money to go help somebody? Stop wasting your gas and praising me. Go help that guy on the street.
Yeah, well, I mean, it says to do that. I mean, there's parts of the Bible you can say, well, it says give up all your belongings and follow him, and so it's like, there was I remember this news report way years and years back where this guy who, quote, looks like Jesus, end quote, so he's got the Jesus look, the long hair and and he had sandals, he had the robe, and he lived basically by handouts. You know, he lived from place to place. You know, and he walks everywhere, and he just talks to people and encourages them. And he, if I remember right, he wasn't even really necessarily preaching Christianity per se, but he was just trying to do good. So it was interesting, you know, and it's like, well, here's somebody that's actually living that life that we're told about, but you know, where's everybody else doing this? Why isn't everyone doing this? You know, and then you get all sorts of answers for why that's the case.
Yeah, I just think it comes down to me. It's like I would expect God not to care so much about, because there are denominations, and there are certain denominations of Christianity where it says you are to sow your seed, you're to tithe 10% of your income, and I'm really addressing that side of the religious spectrum. Uh, I really want to ask these people, like, I would love to sit down with a televangelist and say, how did you justify giving money? I mean, giving money to your church when there's people who are dying of a cancer, and you can yet buy a jet or some type of another building for your church. It makes no sense to me,
Yeah,
especially when you can have church outside, like
kind of
in a tent.
hypocritical, right? So now I'm gonna so let's go into the so basically you come to a point where you can't rationalize it anymore. What was there, one catalyst, or was it just like something that snapped, or you know, the straw that broke the camel's back moment, or was it just kind of like
Yep,
you know, what was that, or can you pin it down?
I can pin it down real easy, and it goes to the idea of belief. I can't simply choose to believe anything. Even if it's a choice, it's a mafia type of choice. It's someone basically, if I had a gun to your head and I say, okay, I'm choosing to save you,
Right.
right? And then decide not to shoot you just because you did some act, okay, that's fine, but why point the gun at me in the first place?
Right.
And
So
when I figured an all powerful God not only has this idea of hell, his own ideology of belief just makes no sense. So he's not even all knowing at this point, because he would know that's not a rational thing to do. Like, you can't rationally disbelieve something and expect it to happen. There's no world scenario where I can walk up to you and just be like, hey, you got to believe the sky is red. And if you don't, you would get shot. That
right.
just doesn't happen.
Yeah, I
So,
mean, maybe I could convince myself over time that I believed it, but I really have to fight my brain to do so. It just seems like an absurd proposal. You know, it's like, look, make it red. If that's, you know, if you want me to think it's red, just have it be red, right?
right. If God wants me to believe, God, just show yourself
Yeah,
to
that
my
kind of,
knowledge. It's
yeah,
that simple.
right,
And that's was my point. It's like, if God really gives a shit about me, he will make himself known, because he has all the power, he has all the knowledge, he has all the capabilities to do so, but chooses not to. And if he's some fucking asshole in the sky and he makes all these fucking rules, needing a blood sacrifice, and tell me to kiss his ass or I will suffer forever, then I go tell him to kiss my fucking ass.
yeah. Now, okay, so have you read? Now, so you deconvert. You're lowly atheist. Somehow, now, how did you stumble into the Church of Satanism, and have you read the Satanic Bible, or how deep are you into this sort of thing, or is it just kind of like a political tool, or what have you?
Political tool. And avenue. I'm just seeing a lot of ways. I'm seeing how the satanic church is able to deal with political issues, and me wanting to have children one day. I want my kids to be free from certain type of stigma the best I can possibly do. Uh,
So
I don't want my
so if I'm understanding, like you're not really like reading their Bible or going to their services. It's more like you'll just declare it when it's handy to declare. Then, or am I getting that wrong?
um, somewhat. I do want to be involved. I still want to know more about it. I think it's fun. I think it brings some type of community that I lost from religion because I can't go back to church. I just it's not going to happen. Um,
Yeah, there's secular churches a couple of comedians started, and then there's been more since then of so-called atheist churches. So I've never been to one myself. I don't know that I don't know. I'd go to check it out. I guess the same thing with the Satanist church. I'd probably go and just check it out just to see. I don't know. I don't know if I'd enjoy it or find it boring. I have no idea until you go. Right? You don't know. Uh,
right.
but yeah, I mean the political aspect of it is very interesting because you have a recognized religion that says, okay, fine, you're gonna grant this religious exception here, then we're gonna demand it, and you can't say no because we're recognized as a religion. So it and sadly, I mean, there are Christians and there are other people of religious affiliation that are pro separation of church and state, but it's kind of sad that they're not as well known as the Satanist church. And I guess that part of it is because it's called, the Church of Satan, that it just invokes this imagery. And that's, was a deliberate choice, I'm sure, of the founders, that they were like, okay, fine, we'll just be, we'll be the devil worshippers. Now what? Yeah, haha, and they can't ignore us. And then they'll say, oh, you guys are doing this, and we'll go, no, you read their Ten Commandments, and they're really well thought out and decent. They're not terrible. I mean, there's room for improvement, sure, but
Oh yeah.
that's true of everything, But yeah, I mean, a lot of people, want that sense of community and whatever. I mean, some people do, some people don't. I'm okay without it. I mean, there's nothing around here. There's nothing around here but churches. You could throw a rock and hit a church just about. You know, uh, so there.
And
Yeah,
and I would if Satanists took off and people were trying to post rules on uh, being a Satanist, and they were pressuring rules and trying to convince people to join Satanism and stuff like that, then I probably wouldn't be a Satanist. It's just to be able to get that exemption because I do want a family. I want to have a good life for my family. And or
yeah,
if my wife wants an abortion, I'm going to allow her to do that. It's her body, so
yeah,
I want her to be able to have that.
yeah.
And if we
It,
decide to have kids, I want my kids to be able to
I
grow
think
up in a society that's not going to judge them for their body or what they like.
yeah, yeah. And this moment happened to me. I was in court and they swore me in and said under God, and I had that fraction of a moment to think about: do I want to make a deal of this right now? Like, do I want to say no? I'm not going to do that. I have to. You have to get rid of the in God part. Like, is now the time to fight for this? And I didn't have time to really think about it because I didn't know that it would come up because I'd been to court before and they didn't have that in the court that I was in before. And so it's different, I guess, from court to court, place state to state. And so it's like, well, I was just like, I nodded, and the judge just looking at me. I'm like, oh yeah, I do, or whatever. And it's like, whatever. I guess I'll fight for it some other time. It's just, it's like, you have to decide, what your battles are going to be. But it still bothered me at the time because I was like, I could have made a thing and I should have made a thing maybe. But, it's like, well, why is that still in court where they say under God? It doesn't add anything, it doesn't. Doesn't make the vow any more or less powerful, I just think it should be gone. And the same thing with the money. I think we should just take it off the money already. Not that, we hardly use physical money now, but it's just to, that God, the word God is a religious word. And, if we're truly going to separate church and state, it just seems to me that there's a couple of things we haven't quite done yet where that would be, true. Watching that stupid movie, God's Not Dead, part 4, where they're like, oh, in the Washington Monument, there's a verse.
That's true, Hal.
Yeah, there's a verse in the Washington Monument at the top that says whatever the bleep. And it's like, look, it's above everything else. The word of God is above everything else in Washington. I'm like, I hate this movie. I had to go look up and find out, oh, yeah, it's true. There is. But they paid for the dang thing, so they get to put their thing there. So it's like, yeah, when someone pays for a thing, I guess they get to put their thing there. So it's like, all right, I guess, it's like, okay, Church of Satan, you got your work cut out. You got to get a monument that's slightly bigger than the Washington Monument put up so you can put, satanic verses up in there and be like, yeah, okay, we can do it too, And I never did finish reviewing that movie, even though I said I was going to. I plan to, eventually.
That is a hard watch, man.
I put it off and I'm hoping that people will forget about that I said that I was going to do it. But then I bring it up like an idiot. And then they'll be like, oh, yeah, that's right. You said that. Anyways.
Hey, I didn't hear nothing.
Yeah. Did they still make people do that? Yes. They did. They said under God. And I was just like nodded, like, whatever. Like, because I'm processing in my mind, like, should I debate this? And it just went so fast. Like, I didn't even think it would be a thing either, because the other court hadn't done that. So whatever, what are you gonna do? It wasn't, it's like, was it the time? Was it the place? Probably, but oh well, missed opportunity. So we get to this point where we're deconverted, and then we're kind of, we make videos about religion or God or whatever, and people like to ask, why do you bother with something that you don't believe in? So why do you spend so much time and energy talking about something that isn't real? So what's your answer to that sort of question? Like, why surely you must really believe, otherwise you wouldn't talk about it so much,
First off, I hate that question because there's so many reasons why I think it's important to understand why this is a big issue. It's easy for a Christian to sit there and say, oh, well, you talk about it so much, I mean, you must believe it. It's so easy for them to do that because they actually do believe it. But for me, it's a struggle. I go to downtown to a gas station. I can't walk in and walk out of that gas station without hearing, God bless you, have a nice day. Oh, you were in an accident? Well, God bless you. I'm constantly hearing that, and then realizing that I have to change the meaning of what they're saying to, hey, it just means thank you. And it's sayings like that I deal with on a daily basis. We all do. And it's on top of that, the homophobia. When we see in the past of Christians actually persecuting other Christians, what do you think they're going to do to people who don't believe what they believe? If they're willing to persecute other Christians, what do you think they would do to us?
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's been interesting to see the kind of rise and fall of homophobic pastors that were outed as being closeted gays, and that the studies have shown that the more openly opposed you are to homosexuality, the more likely it is that you're actually a homosexual. So that might say something about, say the Westboro Baptist Church or whatever, and things like that. It's like, you're so against it, maybe you actually are that, because there's other sins in the Bible.
Stephen, do we need to sit down and have a talk?
Yeah. 613 different sins, actually, so I mean, why focus on, it's like you could say, yeah, don't wear mixed fabrics, and you could have that be your thing. But it was interesting that one person got asked, well, why this? And they're like, this is different than the other sins. It's like, but God doesn't view it that way. It's like, yeah, but they do. So it's really like it's a them problem, and they're using this to justify it. And it's funny because it's not actually even in the Bible until later translations. Homosexuality wasn't there. It's like, well, what's it mean? It says, don't lie with a man like you would with a woman. Yeah, who's it talking to? That's important, because it's talking to the pastors. It's talking to the priests in one instance, and in another instance, it's talking to the disciples or whatever. So it's like you've got to know who it's talking to, and you're not looking at the whole thing. And they keep saying, "Oh, look at it in context." I did. It's not in there. It's not. It doesn't apply.
And I'm just wondering, what's hurting them? Like they always act like it's gonna hurt them. That two men are fucking each other. Okay?
Yeah.
Like, what's that got to do with you? Why do you care what's going on between another lady's thighs?
Yeah. Yeah, well, that was interesting with the Jewish people. They were asked about the women because they're not mentioned at all. And they were like, well, yeah, I don't know. It's probably still wrong, But they don't really go after it either. Because for the Jewish person, it's more about you being obedient. It's not like telling anyone else that they have to. Whereas the Christian, it's like, they like to be like, oh, look at what you're doing. And it's funny because it's like there's that verse, you got a log in your eye, and I was actually able to summon that once because this guy was talking about how tattoos are wrong and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, there's a log in your eye. And he's like, what? And I'm like, there's a log in your eye. He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, there's a log in your eyeball. And he's like, and he got all mad and flustered and he ran off. And I was like, yep. Anyways, back to being skeptical. He didn't, he wanted to be able to be upset at this thing. And it's like, you're not supposed to do that. It says it in your own book. You're not paying attention. You're picking and choosing what you want and how you want it. And
privilege persecution.
Yeah, it's very much, a salad bar in that way where and it's probably true of any other religion or belief, as well, but or maybe there's one that it isn't. I don't know, but and of course people will say, well, why are you going after just the Christians? Like, well, give me somebody else to go after. I mean, the Muslims don't really have advanced apologetics. They have the one apologetic, and it doesn't work. It's basically Allah's it, and look at the Quran, and you're like, yeah, that's not really anything. There's really not much to say there, and the Hindus don't really say anything, and if they do, I can't understand what they're saying. So so I have to leave them alone, and all the other religions are kind of quiet. So when they start speaking up and I find a video, I'll do something about it. But so it's not that I want to focus on Christianity. It's just it's there.
Right.
I was looking up videos to do or cover or whatever. And I was like looking up, proof of God, and I found one about Hinduism, and it was like, okay, what am I even watching? So, anyways, any other thoughts? Any other things you want to get out there and say, and words and stuff?
Just not really. I had a good chat with you. You have anything?
I'm trying to find the one video I was talking about. I'm gonna see if I can find it now. I'm not gonna find it now. Yeah, see, okay. I'm not. Wait, what's this? Is this stupid? Yeah, no, that's the oil. Where's that oil Bible? That wasn't Hinduism.
There wasn't enough copies of that.
Yeah, the oil Bible. The Bible makes oil. That proves God. It doesn't make oil.
That's another thing. The presupposition of, hey, I see the tree, therefore God. Oh, you have a mind.
Trees.
Okay, therefore God. Oh, I need to breathe. Okay,
so,
that's a breath of God.
Yeah.
God.
So let's ask the question. What do you need to prove God, or whatever else for that matter? What do you need?
Evidence.
Empirical evidence repeatable.
Yeah, I'm not asking you. Yes.
Hey, you took the answer.
Yes. Yeah. Now, what do you mean by evidence?
Peer review evidence, like you said, being able to replicate it in a way that we can detect it in any shape or form. Just some way to actually detect it. Not, hey, you have a mind? Okay. You know what the Bible says? It says God created a mind. Okay, therefore God. None of that bullshit. I need actual empirical evidence. I need something that I can go do. Okay, where did this apple come from? Okay, it came from this factory. Okay, where did this factory get these apples from? Well, it comes from the orchard. Okay, where did the orchard get the apple seed?
And then you get to a point where you don't have the answer, and then you go, well, then that's it. You just don't have an answer. You have a mystery, right?
Right.
And the tendency is to insert something into that spot and say, well, that's where the thing lives. That's where God is, or that's where my answer is for this. And it's so easy. I mean, you could do that with all the different insane political shenanigans going on, like the war in Ukraine. You could easily construct a narrative based on it. You could go, well, Biden's son has ties to the Ukraine. That's why we're helping them. And it's like, well, no, but wait, oh, well, I see what you did there, because it sounds plausible, and and if you're the right mindset or the wrong mindset, I suppose, how you look at it, it might convince you, because it's a story that you've constructed to fit what's going on, and we love stories as humans. We enjoy stories. Now I can't find this damn video. Oh well, forget it. I don't care anymore. It doesn't matter. What fuck I have that got to the proof? That's funny. Anyways, all right. Well, thanks, Satan. I can't even say your name. Let me try that again. Satan's little helper. Wow, that was brilliant. I'm gonna go now. My brain is fried. So like, comment, subscribe. You have stuff, but you don't really have a lot of stuff on your channel per se. Or
yeah, I'm gonna have to go, and
you appear on other people's stuff. So
yeah,
really, wow. All right, thanks for being the thing and doing the stuff and having the fun. All right, take care. Peace out. Leave you with the last word.
See you guys in hell.
Mohahaha.